The Typical Defects Identification Report is the first task assigned to NGCon under Phase 2 of Better Work Jordan's project, enhancing the structural integrity of dormitory buildings in Jordan's garment sector. This report helps non-technical members mimic the exercise done by the technical team, related to the first task, which was to identify typical defects in existing dormitories against certain occupational safety and health measures. It also briefs findings of 18 inspection visits, 14 prepared by Phase 1 service providers, represented as per the new checklist, developed by NGCon, and 4 additional samples, decided upon with JGate, and provided by Phase 2 service providers. The steps of assessing the existing dormitories were as follows. Reference to national and international building codes and standards, related to the OSH requirements, to utilize as a baseline, and set the minimum requirements in dormitory buildings. Review assessment report developed at Phase 1. Develop an inspection checklist, to help assess the conditions of the dormitories, with relevance to 4 main assessment measures: structural integrity, electrical safety, fire safety, and public health. Inspection visits to the existing dormitory buildings assigned by JGate. Checklists filled, and remarks recorded during the visits for each inspected dorm. After the assessment, results were analyzed, and defects were categorized, with reference to severity of accompanied risks, and documented in an efficient way, to help executives prioritize the corrective actions needed. With reference to all relevant procedures, documents, national and international codes, related to the OHS and dormitory buildings, the following 4 basic measures were taken to assess conditions of dormitory buildings. Structural integrity. Related to compliance to original design drawings, seismic loading resistance, age of the structure, shape regularity, cracks or deflection, fire escape staircases condition, maintenance, and loading over slabs. Electrical safety. With reference to Jordanian and international codes related to the following: power system, lighting system, low current, fire alarms and security system, and maintenance. Fire safety. With relevance to the provision of safe escape routes, leading towards safe exits or assembly areas. Emergency signage, fire-rated doors where needed and equipped with self-closing devices, MEP firefighting and alarm systems. Public health. Ensuring dorm location is away from pollutants or hazards. Orientation of building and openings provide adequate ventilation and daylight. Proper finishes. Functional MEP systems. Cleanliness, related to space, food, and water. Control against insects and stray animals. Provision of first aid boxes and a clinic. An inspection checklist was suggested with reference to the assessment measures defined, to ensure all OHS requirements are met. Checklists were filled after conducting assessment visits to some existing dormitory buildings in Jordan. A defect classification guide was also developed to help prioritize the corrective actions needed, with reference to the severity of the defect and its accompanied risks, that jeopardize the health and safety of workers. The following represents the suggested inspection checklist, including the subjects of assessment, in addition to some pictures showing the existing conditions of some dorms, taken during the inspection visits. assessments were based solely on what was observed during inspection visits conducted by engineers. Further inspection and assessment visits might be needed by specialists to define budget needed for implementing the corrective actions. Prioritization of the corrective actions can be decided based on the defect classification, with reference to the accommodated budgets. The following charts represent severity and repetitiveness of defects detected in existing dormitories. Related to structural integrity, it was noticed that the most severe risks are accompanied to poor roof insulation, water leakage, and poor conditions of added steel structures, as well as roof slab overloading, and lack of maintenance. While most frequently noticed defects were cracks in non-structural elements, and spalling in concrete covers or plastering. Related to electrical safety, the most dangerous defects detected were the poor conditions of emergency lighting, inadequate lighting, exposed electrical distribution boards and wires, and socket outlets missing covers. While the most frequently noticed were damages to electrical fixtures, poor conditions of the fire alarm system, lack of surveillance cameras, inappropriately fixed elements, lack of the earthing system, and the existence of electrical overloading. Related to mechanical systems, the most severe potential risks are accompanied to poor rainwater drainage, no compliance to safety requirements related to the LPG systems, like the lack of gas leakage detectors, as well as the poor indoor quality, pertaining temperature, humidity, and ventilation. In addition to the poor conditions of sewage and potable water networks, used for drinking or washing, and insufficiency of fire extinguishers and hose reel cabinets. While the most detected defect was the poor conditions of mixers for hot and cold water. As for the fire safety, the fatal defects are related to the lack of, or poor conditions of fire-rated doors, where needed, to provide enclosures against smoke or fire, as well as the inadequate dimensions and insufficient protection of staircases used as part of an emergency exit route, and the inappropriate conditions and finishes of escape routes. While the most frequently noticed was the improper conditions of the emergency assembly area, as well as the lack of emergency signage, evacuation maps, and directional signs guiding towards exits. Also, many architectural and interior defects were detected, mainly related to the lack of maintenance, and improper conditions of the doors, windows, locks and latches, the improper location and condition of the drinking coolers, kitchen or dining area, as well as the unsuitable selection of furniture and finishes, and the poor conditions of the roof floor. In addition to the defects in the building envelope and boundaries, the improper conditions of laundry areas, and inadequate widths and conditions of corridors. And the most commonly detected was related to poor signage, lack of security surveillance, and improper condition of sanitary facilities. Related to public health, most of the defects were considered major, since they directly affect the health and safety of workers, like the improper conditions of sanitary facilities, the inadequate distribution of trash bins and first aid boxes, as well as the lack of control over insects and stray animals, and the lack of cleanliness, especially within food preparation areas.